The blue light of the station illuminated Kira as she moved through the crowded marketplace. The human woman kept her head down, avoiding eye contact with the various alien species that bustled around her. She had lived on Nexus Station for 3 years now, but still felt like an outsider among the galactic community. Kira worked as a translator for the human embassy, a job that utilized her natural gift for languages. She had learned 7 alien languages in record time, earning her the position. Despite competition from more experienced diplomats today, she was off-duty simply shopping for supplies, but she could never truly escape her role as one of the few human representatives in this sector. A commotion near one of the food stalls caught her attention. A small alien child with pale lavender skin and 4 arms was being scolded by what appeared to be her mother. The child was reaching for exotic fruits, while the mother tried to maintain control of her energetic offspring. Kira smiled, remembering her own childhood tantrums. As Kira passed by the alien child, suddenly went still. Her large iridescent eyes widened, focusing intently on the human woman. The child tugged at her mother's robe and pointed directly at Kira. The little alien girl smiled and said, "Mom, that's him." And the room fell silent. Kira froze, confused by the child's words and the sudden attention from nearby aliens. The mother looked horrified, her secondary arms pulling the child closer while her primary arms made a gesture Kira recognized as a sign of protection. Kira spoke in Valturian, the species language. "I think there's some confusion. I'm Kira Henderson from Earth. I'm a woman, not a him." The mother stared at Kira with all 4 of her eyes blinking rapidly. The translator device on her neck buzzed before outputting in accented English. "She says you are the one from her dreams. The prophecy bearer. The one who changes everything." Kira laughed nervously, glancing around at the growing crowd of onlookers. "There must be some mistake. I don't know anything about any prophecies." The station security officers, 2 hulking reptilian draconians, approached, their hands hovering near their weapons. "Ambassador Henderson, the mother and child need to come with us immediately. Station Commander Lauren requests your presence as well." Before Kira could protest, she found herself escorted through the station's corridors toward the administrative section. The mother and child followed closely behind, surrounded by additional security. The small alien girl never took her eyes off Kira, her smile unwavering despite the tense situation. Station Commander Lauren was waiting in the conference room, her tall, slender frame towering over the human as she entered. Lauren belonged to the ethereal race, beings of pure energy contained within specially designed suits. Their luminescent form shifted colors based on their emotional state. Currently, Lauren glowed a cautious orange. "Kira, what do you know about the Valturian prophecy of the outsider?" asked Lauren, her voice melodic yet concerned. "Nothing at all," Kira replied truthfully. "I was shopping when the child pointed at me, and everything went crazy." Lauren gestured toward the viewing window where the vastness of space stretched before them. "The Valturian people have an ancient prophecy about an outsider who would arrive during their darkest hour. Someone who would bridge worlds and unite the divided. The prophecy is thousands of years old, but very specific. The outsider would have no natural bioluminescence, walk on 2 legs, and possess hair on their head, features that describe humans perfectly. But humans have only been part of the galactic community for 15 years. Kira protested. "How could an ancient prophecy describe us?" The mother spoke, her translator converting her musical language. "The prophecy speaks of one who carries the mark of the twin moons on their skin. The child has dreamt of this one for many cycles. She has the sight as many Valturian children do before maturity." Kira instinctively touched her shoulder where 2 crescent moon-shaped birthmarks had been present since birth. How could they know about that? It was always covered by her uniform. Lauren continued, "The Valturian homeworld is currently facing a crisis. Their atmosphere is degrading at an accelerated rate. Their scientists have been unable to halt the process. Their people will be refugees within a decade unless a solution is found." The little alien girl approached Kira fearlessly. She reached up with one of her 4 arms and took Kira's hand. She glows inside Mother. Her inner light is like the ancient stories. Kira felt a strange tingling sensation where the child touched her. A warmth spread up her arm and into her chest. She gasped as images flooded her mind. Visions of a planet with 3 moons, beautiful crystalline cities beneath a purple sky, forests of luminescent vegetation, and then darkness, spreading decay, destruction. She pulled her hand away, breathing heavily. What was that Valturian? Children can share thoughts through touch, explained Lauren. She showed you her homeworld, both as it was and as it is becoming. The mother stepped forward. We have searched for someone like you, someone who matches the prophecy for generations. Many believed it merely a story to give hope during difficult times. But when humans joined the galactic community, many Valturians believed the time had come. What does the prophecy say? I would do exactly, Kira asked, still trying to process the situation. The mother bowed her head. The prophecy says the outsider carries ancient knowledge forgotten by our people, knowledge that will heal our world and forge a new path. Lauren interjected. We believe it might be referring to Earth sciences specifically, Earth's experience with environmental restoration. Earth went through similar atmospheric problems centuries ago during your industrial age, but managed to reverse the damage. Kira frowned. But I'm not a scientist. I'm just a translator. The little alien girl spoke again, her voice translated into childlike English. The dream shows you speaking to the planet. You understand its pain. You know the words that will heal. Earth sciences was my minor in university, Kira admitted. I specialized in terraforming theory and biosphere rehabilitation. But that's theoretical knowledge, not practical experience. Lauren's suit shifted to a hopeful blue. The Valturian High Council has requested Earth-send specialists to assess their situation. Normally, this would take months of diplomatic negotiation. But with you identified as their prophesied outsider, they are granting immediate access to their world. This is unprecedented. Kira felt the weight of expectation pressing down on her. I can't be responsible for saving an entire planet. The mother stepped forward, the child at her side. We do not expect you to work alone. The prophecy speaks of the outsider as one who brings worlds together. Perhaps your role is to connect those who can. Help. That night, Kira could not sleep. Her mind raced with the day's events. The visions the child had shared with her felt so real, so vivid. She paced her quarters, trying to make sense of everything. The 2 crescent birthmarks on her shoulder seemed to tingle, a reminder of their strange connection to this alien prophecy. A soft chime indicated someone at her door. She opened it to find the little alien girl standing there alone. My name is Mira, the child said through her translator. I brought you something. In her small hands she held a crystal that glowed with a soft purple light. It is from my homeworld, Mira explained. It contains our history, our stories, our wisdom. Kira carefully took the crystal. It felt warm to her touch, almost alive. Somehow I can't accept this. You must, Mira insisted. It belongs with you. The crystal has chosen you just as I found you. Kira invited the child inside, curious about her connection to these events. How did you know it was me? How did you see me in your dreams? Mira climbed onto a chair, her 4 arms folding neatly in her lap. The dreams began when the sky started to darken. I saw you standing beneath our 3 moons, speaking words of power. I saw plants growing strong again. I saw our people dancing. With joy, you brought life back to our world. And you believe I can actually do these things? Kira asked. Mira nodded, her large eyes reflecting the room's light. I know it. I feel it here. She pressed a hand to her chest where a human heart would be. 2 days later, Kira found herself aboard the Galactic Council vessel Dawn Seeker, heading toward Valturia. She had been joined by a team of Earth scientists specializing in atmospheric rehabilitation and terraforming. They had been briefed on the Valturian situation and were eager to apply Earth solutions to the alien world. Mira had insisted on traveling with them, claiming her dreams would guide them. She sat beside Kira, now watching the stars streak by through the viewport. The crystal she had given Kira glowed softly in the human's pocket, seemingly reacting to their proximity to Valturia. Kira reviewed the data on her tablet. The Valturian atmosphere had begun degrading approximately 50 years ago. The decline had accelerated dramatically in the last 5. Rates of atmospheric toxicity were increasing at an alarming pace. Dr. Laura Bishop, the leader of the Earth science team, joined them, her expression serious. The situation is worse than we initially thought. The atmospheric degradation is similar to what Earth experienced during our climate crisis, but with unique elements we don't fully understand. The composition of their atmosphere is changing in ways that defy our models. Mira placed a small hand on Kira's arm. In my dream, you stand beneath the moons and speak ancient words. Then the sky changes. The plants grow strong again. Our people dance in celebration. Laura raised an eyebrow at the child. Atmospheric rehabilitation doesn't usually work that way. Little one. It takes time, complex technology, and patience, but Kira felt uncertain. Something about this entire situation felt familiar, as if she had done this before, or was meant to do this. Perhaps there was more to the prophecy than simple coincidence. Ship's captain announced their approach to Valturia. The planet came into view, a beautiful orb of purple and blue with 3 silvery moons in orbit. Around it hovered numerous ships, evidence of the evacuation already in progress. The sight matched the vision Mira had shared perfectly. Kira gasped as she felt a strange connection to the planet even from orbit. It was as if something was calling to her. The crystal in her pocket grew warmer, pulsing with light. The Dawn Seeker landed at the main spaceport of Valturia's capital city. A delegation of Valturian officials waited to greet them. Their forearms performed elaborate gestures of welcome and hope. At their head stood Supreme Counselor Vex, her ornate robes indicating her high status. You have come as foretold, Vex said, approaching Kira directly. The one who walks between worlds, the bearer of forgotten wisdom. Our people have waited generations for this moment. Kira felt uncomfortable with the reverence in the alien's voice. I make no promises, Counselor. I am here with scientists who understand these problems, but I cannot guarantee we will find a solution. Vex nodded, her 4 eyes blinking in sequence. We understand. The prophecy does not promise success, only the possibility of it, but your arrival gives our people hope, and hope has been in short supply. The delegation led them to a floating platform that transported them through the city. Kira marveled at the crystalline structures that seemed to grow from the ground itself. Rather than being constructed, the architecture was both alien and somehow familiar. The buildings glowed with internal light, though Kira noticed many were dimmer than they should be, another sign of the planet's illness. Mira pointed excitedly. That is the Temple of Remembrance, where our oldest knowledge is kept. You will go there. The prophecy says so. Laura leaned toward Kira, whispering, I don't know about prophecies, but we need soil and atmospheric samples from multiple locations. If they're environmental, decline has a technological cause. We need to identify it. The group was brought to a grand building that would serve as their headquarters during the mission. It overlooked a vast garden of luminescent plants that pulsed with soft light in patterns. That seemed almost like communication. The 3 moons were visible in the sky even during daylight, their positions marking the time according to Valturian tradition. After settling in, Laura organized the science team. We need to establish monitoring stations across the northern hemisphere. We need core samples from the ancient forests, and we need access to all historical data on atmospheric composition. Vex assured them they would have full cooperation. Our scientists will assist yours. Our archives are open to you. Our people stand ready to help in any way. That night, Kira found herself unable to sleep again. The crystal Mira had given her pulsed with a rhythm that matched her heartbeat. She felt drawn to the window where the 3 moons hung, in perfect alignment. She felt a compulsion to visit the Temple of Remembrance that Mira had pointed out earlier. Guided by instinct, Kira slipped out of the compound. The streets were quiet, most Valturians already in their sleeping chambers. The temple loomed before her, its spires reaching toward the triple moons. Its crystalline surface reflected the moonlight, creating an ethereal glow. The entrance stood open as if expecting her. Inside, the vast chamber was empty, except for a central pedestal, where a larger version of Mira's crystal hovered suspended in midair. Kira approached cautiously, feeling the smaller crystal in her pocket growing warmer with each step. When she reached the pedestal, the crystal floated out of her pocket of its own, a cord rising to orbit the larger one. The two crystals began to resonate, creating harmonics that filled the chamber with sound. Images appeared in the air around her, holographic scenes of ancient Valturians constructing something beneath the surface of the planet, a vast network of machinery designed to protect the world from some cosmic threat. The technology used principles Kira recognized from her Earth science studies, but far more advanced. The images shifted, showing the network failing, sections shutting down as crystals similar to the one Mira had given her darkened and died. The atmospheric degradation wasn't natural. It was the result of this ancient protective system breaking down. A voice spoke in her mind, not in words, but in pure knowledge, understanding flowing into her consciousness like water. The system could be repaired, but it required specific knowledge. Knowledge that humans had discovered independently on Earth. Kira's studies in terraforming had prepared her for exactly this task. She gasped as the connection broke, the crystals returning to their positions. The one Mira had given her floated back into her hand, now pulsing with renewed energy. She knew what needed to be done. The next morning, Kira called together both teams. "We need to look underground," she announced. "The problem isn't in the atmosphere. It's beneath the surface." Laura looked skeptical. "What are you talking about, Kira?" "The atmospheric readings clearly show." Kira interrupted. "I know this sounds crazy, but the Valturians built a planetary protection system thousands of years ago. It's failing now, causing the atmospheric degradation. I saw it. I felt it." Vex stepped forward, her four eyes wide. "The ancestral shield is not just legend. You have seen it." Mira bounced excitedly. "I told you she was the one. I told you." Laura crossed her arms. "How exactly did you come by this information?" Kira held up the crystal. "The information is stored in these. They contain not just data, but actual knowledge, experience." She took a breath, struggling to explain. "I know this sounds impossible, but I think this is why the prophecy pointed to a human specifically. Earth independently developed similar technologies, but took a different approach. We might be able to adapt our methods to repair their system." The Valturian engineers led Kira and the Earth science team to an ancient entrance hidden beneath the Temple of Remembrance. The doorway was covered in symbols that matched those Kira had seen in her vision. Vex placed her four hands on specific points and the massive door slid open, revealing a tunnel that descended deep into the planet. The air grew warmer as they traveled downward. The walls of the tunnel were lined with the same crystalline material that made up the buildings above. But these crystals pulsed with a faint, sickly light. Evidence of the system's decay. Laura studied her instruments with growing amazement. "These readings are off the charts. There's an energy signature here, unlike anything we've documented before." Mira stayed close to Kira, holding one of her hands with two of her own. The child seemed to sense Kira's nervousness and offered silent support. Kira appreciated the gesture, finding comfort in the small alien's presence. After nearly an hour of descent, they arrived at a vast underground chamber. The space stretched farther than their lights could illuminate. At its center stood a massive crystal structure similar to the one in the temple, but hundreds of times larger. Around it were control panels, workstations, and machinery that looked both ancient and somehow futuristic. "This is the heart of the ancestral shield," explained Vex. "Our ancestors built this system to protect our world from solar radiation when our sun's output became unstable. For thousands of years it maintained the perfect balance in our atmosphere, but now it fails. For reasons we cannot understand." Kira approached the central crystal, drawn to it as she had been to the one in the temple. The crystal in her pocket pulsed in rhythm. With the larger one, she placed her hand on the surface of the massive crystal and immediately felt a connection form. Images, knowledge, understanding flowed into her mind. She gasped, pulling her hand away. "The system isn't failing because of mechanical breakdown. It's evolving. The original threat is gone, but the system doesn't know how to shut down. It's trying to protect against a danger that no longer exists. It's overcompensating, creating the atmospheric problems. Laura joined her at the crystal, her scientific skepticism battling with the evidence before her eyes. If what you're saying is true, we need to essentially reprogram the entire system. Tell it to stand down. Change its parameters. One of the Valturian engineers, a female named Tala, stepped forward. Such attempts have been made. The system rejects all changes. It sees them as threats. Kira looked at the crystal in her hand, then at Mira. The prophecy says, "I would speak to the planet, that I know the words that will heal it." What if that's literal? What if I can communicate with the system through these crystals? The human scientists exchanged doubtful glances, but Vex nodded solemnly. The prophecy speaks of the outsider's voice being heard by the world itself. Our ancestors left messages saying the shield would recognize its true master when the time came. Kira felt overwhelmed by the responsibility, but she also felt a strange certainty that she could do this, that somehow she was connected to this alien technology, in a way she couldn't explain. The crystal in her hand had grown warmer, seeming to encourage her. She approached the central control panel, which was covered in crystal interfaces similar to the one she held. Drawing on the knowledge that had flowed into her mind, she placed her crystal into an empty slot in the panel. The effect was immediate. The entire chamber lit up with renewed energy. The massive central crystal pulsed with light. Kira placed her hands on the interface panel and closed her eyes. She didn't speak aloud. Instead, she focused her thoughts, directing them through the crystal connection. She envisioned the system as it was meant to be, working in harmony with the planet, not fighting against natural changes. She showed it, Earth-Sci, own environmental recovery, the way humans had learned to work with natural systems rather than trying to control them completely. The massive crystal began to pulse with her heartbeat. The entire chamber vibrated with energy. Displays around them flickered, showing diagrams of the planet's systems, the atmosphere, the soil, the water cycle, all interconnected, all part of a whole. Laura watched the displays, her scientific mind racing to understand what she was seeing. It's like she's resetting the entire system, recalibrating it to work with the planet's natural cycles rather than against them. Mira bounced excitedly. She's talking to the planet. Just like my dreams. For several minutes, Kira remained connected to the system her mind joined with. The ancient technology, she felt as if she was speaking with an intelligence not truly alive, but not simply mechanical either. Together, they worked through the problems, finding new solutions based on both Valturian wisdom and Earth science. When she finally broke the connection, Kira stumbled backward, caught by Vex's forearms. She felt drained but triumphant. I think it worked. The system understood. It's going to gradually adjust rather than trying to force the old parameters. The displays around them confirmed her words, showing a new program being implemented throughout the network. Tala studied the readouts, her four eyes widening. The atmospheric degradation has already begun to slow. The system is realigning itself, stabilizing, instead of fighting the natural cycles. They spent the next several days in the underground facility, monitoring the changes, Kira working with both human and Valturian scientists to ensure the transition went smoothly. The crystal she had been given remained in the control panel, serving as a bridge between her understanding and the ancient system. Surface readings confirmed what the underground displays showed. The atmosphere was beginning to heal. Plants were responding, growing stronger. The strange sickness that had affected the crystalline structures was reversing. One evening, as Kira sat alone in the garden outside their headquarters, Mira found her. The child sat beside her, looking up at the three moons. "You did it," said Mira. "You spoke to the planet and it listened, just as the dream showed." Kira smiled, feeling both exhausted and fulfilled. "I didn't do it alone. The knowledge was already there in your people's technology, in Earth science. We just needed to bring them together." Mira touched Kira's hand, sharing images of celebrations across Valturia. People rejoicing as news spread of the planet's healing, evacuation ships turning around, bringing people home rather than taking them away. hope returning to a world that had been preparing for its end. The next day, Supreme Counselor Vex called for a formal ceremony to honor Kira and the Earth team. The Grand Plaza in the center of the capital was filled with Valturians, their forearms raised in a gesture of gratitude and respect. The three moons were visible in the daytime sky, positioned in the exact alignment from Miras. Dreams Kira stood before the gathered crowd, feeling self-conscious but proud. Laura and the other scientists stood with her along with Mira, and her mother Vex addressed her people. The prophecy has been fulfilled. The outsider came in our darkest hour, bringing forgotten wisdom, bridging worlds to save our own. The ancestral shield now protects us as it was meant to, working with our world instead of against it. The crowd performed a synchronized movement, their forearms creating patterns in the air that Kira recognized as expressions of joy and gratitude. Vex turned to Kira. From this day forward, you and all humans will be known as world speakers among our people, honored allies and friends. The bond between our worlds will grow strong, benefiting both. Laura leaned toward Kira, whispering, "This is going to revolutionize Earth science too. The principles at work here could help solve some of our own environmental challenges. The exchange of knowledge goes both ways." Mira tugged at Kira's hand. "Will you stay?" she asked, her large eyes. Hopeful, Kira knelt to the child's level. "I can't stay forever, but I will return. I promise. There is still much our worlds can learn from each other," and she meant it. She felt connected to this place now, not just because of the prophecy or the technology, but because of the friendship that had formed, the bridge between worlds that had been created. As the celebration continued, Kira looked up at the three moons, thinking about the strange path that had led her here. A simple translator caught up in an ancient prophecy. Who would have thought that her minor in earth sciences would help save an alien world? But perhaps that was the point. The universe brought together unlikely connections when they were needed most. 6 months after the events on Valturia, Kira returned to her translator position at the human embassy on Nexus Station. But everything had changed. Her role had expanded significantly. She now served as an official liaison between Earth and Valturia, helping coordinate scientific and cultural exchanges between the two worlds. The success on Valturia had caught the attention of other species in the galactic community. Many were curious about Earth sciences and how humans approached environmental problems differently than other advanced civilizations. Kira found herself explaining Earth concepts to alien diplomats almost daily. A message notification flashed on her desk terminal. It was from Mira. The young Valturian sent regular updates on the planet's continuing recovery, along with personal stories about her own life. The child had become something of a celebrity among her people, known as the one who recognized the world speaker. Her latest message included images of the restored forest near her home. The luminescent vegetation now glowed with healthy, vibrant light. Kira smiled at the images, remembering her time on the alien world. She touched her shoulder where the twin crescent birthmarks lay hidden beneath her uniform. The strange connection she felt to Valturia had not faded despite the distance. Ambassador Harris entered her office, interrupting her thoughts. The tall woman was Kira's direct superior and had been initially skeptical about the whole prophecy situation. Now she was one of Kira's strongest supporters. "We just received a request from the Zephyri delegation," Harris said. "They want to meet with you." Specifically, Kira looked up, surprised. The Zephyri were a reclusive species who rarely engaged with the wider galactic community. Their homeworld was rumored to be experiencing environmental problems, though they had never officially confirmed this. Me. Why would they want to meet with me specifically? Harris handed her a data tablet. The message speaks of dreams their young have been having similar visions to what the Valturian child experienced. They mention birthmarks like yours. Kira felt a chill run down her spine. Another prophecy. Another world in need. I thought the Valturian situation was a unique coincidence. Ambassador Harris shook her head. The galaxy is full of mysteries, Kira. Ancient connections we're only beginning to understand. As the newest species in the community, perhaps we have fresh perspectives to offer. Solutions others haven't considered. The Zephyri delegation arrived the following day. Their appearance was striking tall, willowy beings with translucent skin through which flowing patterns of light could be seen. They moved with a grace that made them appear to float rather than walk. Their leader Sylph addressed Kira directly, her voice like wind through leaves. "We have observed your work with the Valturians' world speaker. Our seers have dreamed of you standing beneath our twin stars, healing the great forests that once covered our world." Kira maintained her diplomatic composure. "Though her mind raced with the implications, I'm honored by your interest, High Seer, but I'm not sure I understand why me specifically. What is it about humans that connects to these ancient systems?" Sylph's inner lights pulsed with thoughtful patterns. Many worlds faced similar challenges in their distant past. Some created technological solutions, others developed biological adaptations, but all faced the challenge of balance. How to progress without destruction. How to grow without consuming everything. You humans are unique not in facing these challenges, but in how you overcame them. Your species nearly destroyed your world, then saved it. Your perspective bridges the gap between technological and natural approaches. The meeting lasted hours as the Zephyri explained their situation. Their world, once covered in vast forests, had been gradually turning to desert, their atmosphere thinning, their technologies unable to halt the process. Their descriptions reminded Kira of the Valturian crisis, but with important differences. When the delegation departed, Kira had agreed to visit their world with another team of Earth scientists. This time, she approached the mission with less fear and more purpose, understanding that her role was not to be a savior but a connector, bringing together different kinds of knowledge. Laura Bishop joined her again, leading the scientific team. Her experience on Valturia had made her the natural choice. "You're becoming quite the interplanetary environmental consultant," she teased as they boarded the ship to Zephyr. Kira laughed. "I never would have predicted this when I took that Earth Sciences minor. It was just something I found interesting." Laura gave her a knowing look. "The universe works in strange ways. Sometimes we're prepared for our purpose long before we understand what that purpose is." The journey to Zephyr took 2 weeks even with the advanced propulsion systems of their ship. Kira spent the time studying everything available about Zephyri culture and environment. She also maintained regular communication with Mira, wanting to keep her promise to the child. When they arrived at Zephyr, the planet appeared as a swirl of golden and amber hues from orbit. The once lush forests had indeed given way to vast deserts, though patches of green still clung to mountain regions and near water sources. The Zephyri welcomed them with a ceremony involving elaborate light displays created by the patterns within their translucent bodies. Children gathered around Kira, curious about the human who figured in their dreams. One small Zephyri child approached her shyly. "You have the marks of the Ancient Ones," the child said, her inner lights flickering with excitement. "I saw them in my dreams." Kira knelt to the child's level. "How did you see them?" "They're hidden beneath my clothes." The child's lights formed patterns of amusement. "Dreams don't see with eyes. They see with knowing." The scientific team began their work, immediately setting up monitoring stations and collecting samples. Laura coordinated with Zephyri scientists, comparing data and theories, but Kira felt drawn to the vast desert that had once been forest. The birthmarks on her shoulder tingled as if responding to something in this alien environment. Sylph accompanied her on a journey to what the Zephyri called the Heart of Remembrance, a place where the last ancient tree still stood, despite the encroaching desert. As they approached, Kira saw the massive tree, its trunk wider than any Earth tree she had ever seen. Its branches reached toward the twin suns, its leaves a deep blue rather than green. "This is the first tree," Sylph explained, "the ancestor of all forests on our world. It remembers the time before the Great Drying. It holds the knowledge of what was and what could be." Again, Kira felt drawn to the enormous tree. As she placed her hand on its bark, she experienced the now familiar sensation of connection. Images, knowledge, understanding flowed into her mind. The tree was more than a living organism. It was a biological information storage system containing the entire ecological history of the planet. The Zephyri had once been deeply connected to their forests, able to communicate with them through the patterns of light they shared. The trees had helped regulate the planet's atmosphere, maintain water cycles, support diverse life. But something had broken that connection. A shift in Zephyri, society from biological technology to mechanical, had severed the symbiotic relationship. Kira gasped, pulling her hand away. It's not just an environmental problem. It's a cultural one. The Zephyri need to reconnect with the forests, not just regrow them. The communication has been lost. Sylph's lights pulsed with recognition. Our ancient texts speak of this, the communion between people and forest. But such practices were set aside generations ago, considered primitive superstition. Kira felt certainty growing within her, the birthmarks on her shoulder burning with a pleasant warmth. This is what the prophecy means. This is why a human perspective helps. I need to show you how Earth reconnected with its natural systems while still advancing technologically. We found balance by combining old wisdom with new knowledge. Over the next several weeks, Kira worked with both the scientific team and Zephyri cultural leaders. They developed a plan that combined Earth terraforming techniques with restored Zephyri traditions. The first tree provided seeds that were planted in strategic locations. Laura's team developed irrigation systems that worked with the natural landscape. Zephyri children were taught to communicate with the seedlings through their internal light patterns. The results were slow but promising. Within months, small pockets of forest began to establish themselves. The atmosphere showed minimal but measurable improvement. The connection between the Zephyri and their world was being re-established before Kira departed. Sylph presented her with a seed from the first tree. Keep this with you, world speaker. It will help guide you to other worlds in need. Worlds where balance has been lost. Laura found Kira staring at the seed later that evening on their ship. You know, this is getting rather strange, she said, half joking. I'm a scientist. I don't usually put much stock in prophecies and mystical connections, but after what I've seen, I can't deny something unusual is happening. Kira carefully placed the seed in a special container beside the crystal Mira had given her. Something is connecting these worlds, these crises, and somehow I'm part of it. My birthmarks, my background, my perspective. It's as if I was prepared for this role long before I knew it existed. Laura nodded thoughtfully. Perhaps that's what destiny really is. Not some predetermined fate, but the perfect intersection of preparation and opportunity. When the universe needs something specific, it finds those who can provide it. 2 years passed. Kira's reputation as the world speaker had spread throughout the galactic community. She had visited 5 more planets, each facing unique environmental challenges, each with ancient prophecies or dreams pointing to someone with her specific characteristics. Her collection of alien artifacts had grown the Valturian crystal, the Zephyri seed, joined by objects from other worlds, each connecting her to the planets she had helped. The human embassy had created a special division, focused on environmental diplomacy with Kira as its director. Earth sciences were now highly sought after, with exchange programs bringing alien students to Earth universities and sending human experts to other worlds. The unexpected result of one child's recognition in a crowded marketplace had changed humanity's role in the galactic community. Kira sat in her office on Nexus Station reviewing reports from the various worlds she had visited. The progress was remarkable. Valturia's atmosphere had fully stabilized. Zephyr's forests now covered 20% of the previously deserted areas. The pattern repeated across all the worlds she had connected with. Ambassador Harris entered carrying a secure data tablet. Kira, I think you need to see this. The tablet displayed images of a planet Kira had never seen before, one with rings of ice and oceans of methane. Deep blues and purples swirled across its surface. The Nexori Harris explained, they've maintained isolation from the galactic community for centuries. But yesterday they sent this message to Earth specifically. Kira took the tablet, reading the formal diplomatic language with growing amazement. The Nexori requested her by name, citing ancient texts that described a being with marks like twin moons who would come during their world's transition. They didn't describe an environmental crisis, but rather a evolutionary one. Their species was changing, adapting to new conditions, and their ancient texts spoke of a guide who would help them through this transformation. Harris watched her reaction. "What do you make of it?" Kira touched her birthmarks through her uniform. "I don't understand how this is possible. How could ancient texts on worlds across the galaxy describe me specifically? What connects all these different crises? Perhaps it's not about you specifically." Harris suggested, "Maybe it's about Earth. Maybe our planet's history of environmental crisis and recovery created a template that others need. A path through similar challenges." Kira considered this. The galaxy is billions of years old. Countless civilizations have risen and fallen. Surely others faced similar challenges. A memory surfaced from her time on Valturia. When she had connected with the ancient system, she had sensed something deeper. A pattern repeated across worlds, a cycle of growth, crisis, adaptation, and renewal. What if Earth was simply at a different point in that cycle? What if humans had found solutions that others had forgotten? The birthmarks, Kira wondered aloud. How do they fit into this? A soft chime indicated another visitor. Mira stood in the doorway, no longer the small child she had been when they first met. Now a young adolescent, her forearms bearing the ceremonial markings of a seer in training. Kira smiled with surprise and delight. "Mira, I didn't know you were visiting the station." The young Valturian approached her, inner lights glowing with affection. "I came because I had another dream. A bigger dream about why you have the marks. Why you are the world speaker." Harris excused herself, sensing the importance of the moment. Kira gestured for Mira to continue. Mira sat across from her. "The marks you bear are not unique to you. They appear throughout galactic history on many worlds. When great transitions occur, the twin moons represent balance, change, and stability, growth and preservation, technology and nature. They mark those who can see both sides, who can bridge divided perspectives." Kira listened, fascinated. "So others have had these same birthmarks?" Mira nodded. "They appear when needed. The pattern repeats, the knowledge is passed along. Sometimes in technology, like our crystals. Sometimes in biology, like the Zephyri trees. Sometimes in cultural memory, like prophecies and dreams. The galaxy remembers what works." The pieces began to fit together in Kira's mind. The artifacts she had collected from each world were not merely symbols. They were repositories of knowledge, each containing solutions that had worked before, each waiting to be rediscovered when needed. "I'm not special," then Kira said with relief, "just in the right place at the right time." Mira's four eyes blinked in their sequential pattern that indicated amusement. "The universe doesn't waste resources, world speaker. The marks appear on those prepared to use them. You studied exactly what was needed. You had the perspective that was required. You were open to possibilities, others dismissed. That is not coincidence. That is pattern," Kira considered. "The message from the Nexori. This transition they speak of. Do you know what it means?" Mira's expression grew serious. "Not all transitions are about healing damage. Some are about evolution, change that must be embraced rather than resisted, growth that requires letting go of old forms. The Nexori are becoming something new, something they were always meant to be. But change brings fear. They need someone who understands both holding on and letting go." Kira thought about Earth's own history. The painful transitions, the resistance to necessary changes, the eventual adaptations. That was perhaps humanity's greatest strength. Not that they had avoided mistakes, but that they had learned from them, evolved beyond them. "I'll accept their invitation," Kira decided. "But this time I want you to come with me, Mira. Your insight, your dreams, they're part of this pattern too." The young Valturian's lights pulsed with joy and pride. "I was hoping you would ask. I have been preparing for this. All seers must eventually leave their homeworld to learn from other traditions, as they began making preparations for the journey to Nexori space. Kira reflected on the strange path her life had taken, from a simple translator to a bridge between worlds. All because one child had recognized her in a crowded marketplace. All because of birthmarks she had always hidden. All because she had studied subjects that interested her without knowing their ultimate purpose. Later that evening, Kira stood at the viewing window of her quarters looking out at the stars. She held the collection of artifacts, the crystal, the seed, and others, each pulsing with subtle energy, each connecting her to the worlds she had touched. The birthmarks on her shoulder tingled in response, a reminder of her unusual role. Laura Bishop called via communication terminal, her face appearing on the screen. "So another world, another prophecy," she said with a smile of friendly teasing. "You realize this is becoming a pattern, right?" Kira laughed. "Yes, and apparently I'm not the first. The birthmarks have appeared throughout galactic history, marking those who can help with transitions." Laura's expression grew thoughtful. "You know we've been studying the artifacts you've collected. They contain information, storage mechanisms far beyond our current technology. But the interesting thing is they're compatible with each other. Despite coming from completely different worlds, different species, different technologies, they can interface. They share data. They communicate. That can't be coincidence." Kira said. Laura nodded. "It suggests a common origin, or at least a common purpose, as if they were designed to work together, to preserve and share solutions across worlds, across time." Kira touched the crystal from Valturia, feeling its familiar warmth. "The universe remembers," she murmured, repeating Mira's words. "The pattern repeats. Perhaps that's the real meaning of the prophecies," Laura suggested. "Not that you specifically were foretold, but that the universe has mechanisms for preserving and sharing knowledge. Solutions that work are never truly lost, just waiting to be rediscovered when needed." As Kira prepared for her journey to Nexori space, she wondered what new connections awaited, what new knowledge would be added to the pattern, what new understanding would emerge from this strange bridge she had become between worlds, between past and future, between what was forgotten and what was yet to be discovered. The birthmarks on her shoulder tingled with anticipation, as if they too were eager to continue the ancient cycle of crisis and renewal, of challenge and adaptation, of worlds helped and knowledge preserved. The pattern that connected all sentient beings across the vast expanse of the galaxy, a pattern she was now consciously part of, and somewhere in the darkness between stars, a child on yet another world dreamed of a visitor with marks like twin moons, who would come when the time was right, who would speak words of power, who would show the way forward through times of great change. A dream as old as civilization itself, passed from world to world across the great cycles of galactic time. The universe remembering, the pattern repeating, the knowledge preserved until it was needed once more.